leading stories, trending topics, changing narratives. You're listening to the Critical Conversations Podcast.
That's right. Welcome back, everybody, to the Critical Conversations Podcast. My name is Dr. Rick Daniels, and I am the Director of Institutional Equity and Inclusion right here at Oakton College. I am excited about today's episode because we are talking about moving from evaluation to engagement. And today we're going to be introducing the new platform for performance management and engagement at Oakton, and that's called Lattice. So the episode really focuses on the ways in which we can rethink and reevaluate performance management. As employees, especially in higher education, sometimes we tend to overlook this as a valuable part of the experience. But today we're going to be destigmatizing that part, and we're also going to be introducing Lattice as a platform that I know that you'll enjoy. So this is going to be an exciting episode, and I am joined by some fabulous colleagues, all of which I've had the chance to work with very closely on this project, as well as many others. And I'm so grateful that they're here joining us today. So I'm going to give them a chance to introduce themselves, and then we're going to get started with the conversation. Roxana, why don't you kick us off?
Hello, everyone. My name is Roxana Betka. I'm an HR generalist focusing on talent development, and I'm excited to be here today.
Hello, everyone. I am Tamara. I'm the Bursar here at Oakton, and I am excited to be here today.
Hi, all. I'm Mindy Finnigan in the Human Resources Department as the Senior Manager of Talent Acquisition and Development. Thank you for having us, Rick.
Thanks for being here.
All right, Rick. My name is Tom Hicks. I'm Director of Student Success and Academic Interventions here at the institution. And again, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for being here today, everybody. Let's have a conversation about Lattice. I am very excited about this, but we're in the process of rolling this out and introducing it. But let's start from the top, because I remember when I came in 2018. Oh, wow, it's been a while. I came in 2018, and I remember some of the conversations around that time around performance management, around the process that we had. And so we've been talking about doing something like this for a while. But can someone start us off by walking through how we got to this point? Tell us a little bit about the journey, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the performance management software later. But tell us how we got to this point.
I'm happy to jump in on this. So we were requested in the HR department to move the college from a paper-based evaluation system to something that would be online and that wouldn't take emailing forms, PDF forms, Word forms back and forth. And I think in HR, we saw this as a tremendous opportunity to look at systems that would not only automate things and bring us into the 2020s, but to change the culture around performance discussions, right, and create a culture of feedback and engagement that we knew people were desiring very much in the college. So instead of just creating an online form, and we examined a whole bunch of systems, some that would be just simply creating an online form, but others that would lead to this rich experience. And in our evaluation, we formed a task force, multidisciplinary from all over the college. We had about 10 people participating, and were able to evaluate 5-6 different systems and settle on Lattice as the system of choice.
Yeah, awesome. And tell us about the evaluation process, and anybody can share about what your experience was, how you tended to look at some of the other platforms. Tell us about that process a little bit.
So I think before we get into the actual platforms, I think it's good to know that, we did a lot of listening parties around campus. First and foremost, we talked to our president's council. So that includes our president, our vice presidents from across the whole institution to get their feedback, right? Because they are the people leaders in charge of our institution, try to take their input. And then in addition to that, talk to the people on the street who are really doing these evaluations. What does it look like if you're a subject content leader? What does that form look like for you to feel your growth in your position? And then managers and supervisors across the institution. So we cobbled all that information together, try to pull out some themes of what people were looking for. And then that informed a lot of the decisions as we met with the different vendors across the whole landscape of performance management. We saw some really good products out there doing some remarkable stuff. Now, again, from, as Mindy indicated earlier, to go from a Word document to an online platform system. It's as if we just landed on the moon, right? We are so far from where we've been.
Mindy said, look, bring it to the 2020s. I got a kick out of that one.
So in that respect, we wanted to make sure that we could use the tool and the platform to at least meet the needs of what we wanted right now. In addition to that, we did a lot of future casting to think about, okay, we can implement this today, next year, but long term, what does that look like for the development and growth of not only our individual staff here, but the college as an institution? You know, how do we move forward? How do we use this or whatever platform we choose, in this case, Lattice, as a change agent for changing the organizational culture here? Yeah. And I think that's kind of what we looked at, and then ultimately why we wind up choosing Lattice as our platform of choice.
Excellent. Thanks, Tom. I really appreciate the term change agent, because I think that that is a big part of the discussion that we're having right now. How are we leading and guiding the college through as agents of change as we go about this? And so that's good to hear that that was a part of the discussion in the process of coming up with it. Let's talk about Lattice, though. You know, that's the exciting part. Tell us about some of the standout features of Lattice. Tell us about what you like. Tell us about what you're excited about, what you're looking forward to. I'm happy to kick this one off and say that I've already started my one-on-ones with Brenda in Lattice. And the only thing that's hard to keep up with is the fact that I haven't done it yet, right? So it's a culture change, and I'm so used to doing it in a certain way that I have to remember to use it. And Lattice does a good job of reminding me after the meeting. And so that means, okay, let me go back and put my notes in and be useful. But I've appreciated just having an online platform to document our one-on-ones. And so for me, it's been incredibly useful so far. That's one thing I like, but that's only one part about it. Tell me about some of the features that you all like about it and what you're excited about as we roll it out.
Okay, well, I can start. I think one thing that we are starting with is performance evaluations. And a highlight of kind of that feature in Lattice is that it is a streamlined process that becomes very transparent for the employee and the supervisor. And the platform is so crisp and clear and just modern that it's like a joy to sign into Lattice. Right? Yeah. An element also of the performance evaluations is what you mentioned, Rick, is the one-on-one and the updates. And what's exciting about that is when supervisors, once we get into actually utilizing it on a regular basis, when supervisors go in to complete their performance evaluation, they will actually have a side panel view of any updates, any one-on-ones that they have utilized for the past, however many weeks or months or year to reference back to as they're writing their evaluation, which will improve the effectiveness and the efficiency and the accuracy of performance evaluations. So that's something that stands out to me.
Yeah, I haven't used it as a one-on-one yet, but I am excited about that feature. I feel like doing the one-on-ones and the check-ins would capture the results in real time. So if you get like an employee working on a project or something, you could check in during different phases of the project. And then at the end, you could come and discuss the results. What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? What would you have changed about it? So I think it just give more engaging, doing throughout the year instead of waiting at the end of the year to discuss what you've done all year. So the different one-on-ones and check-ins are a tool that I'm excited to use.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because it reminds me of something that a mentor of mine used to say. When you get to the performance evaluation part, most of that stuff shouldn't be new. Most of what you're talking about should have already been discussed or should have already been approached at some point. And so I think that it's great because this allows us to be able to keep a better, accurate track of what we talk about, what's covered, what's accomplished, what needs to be changed. I think this helps us to do that in a digital format.
I think the other thing that's important about the tool is, especially for those people leaders who have staff across both campuses or who are working remotely or now going to be in our Evanston facility, it's important to keep that sentiment, right? You're not there day in and day out interacting with your staff, right? So we've been able to use the updates to get that sentiment feedback as one of the questions. So I know on a biweekly basis, collectively, how my staff is feeling. And then on an individual level, okay, this person is doing really well. This person needs a little boost. What does that look like? That helps me sort of craft my engagement and how I support them and able to get the work that they're doing. So again, in conjunction with those one-on-ones, the updates are going to make it really easy for us to gain a pretty holistic view of how our staff are dealing at any point in time. And again, to make the performance evaluation is just the conclusion, right? Of the actual year. We're not writing the whole thesis. We're just at the last bit of it. And it's those updates and the one-on-ones that are really the intro and that meaty 3 paragraphs in the middle portion. So I'm excited about this as we move forward.
Yeah, I really like what you said about it helps to ultimately meet people where they are, to give them, to approach what they need from their managers or supervisors and essentially the people evaluating them. I feel like that's where the equity component comes in. Being able to use it as a tool to help those who may need different kinds of help, right? Or who may receive information differently. Part of the stigma around performance evaluations, performance management, is that everyone's expected to do it the same exact way and ask the same kinds of questions and to have the same sort of evaluation structure. This helps with some fluidity, which I think will be really meaningful when you get it down to identity, when you get it down to culture, when you get it down to things that really matter to the employee experience. But let's explore that first part of what I said first. Let's talk about the stigma of performance management and performance evaluation. I am someone, as I imagine you all are too, who have been on both sides of that desk, right? So I've been on the I remember my very first performance management discussion when I was an intern in the media relations department at Kraft. And I was devastated because I was so used to hearing compliments at that point. I didn't know how to take challenges, right? I didn't know how to take someone telling me what I needed to do better. Now, looking back on it in hindsight, as a manager, as a people manager, I can find some ways in which that supervisor could have done some things better. But it took me a while to wrap my mind around the fact that someone had evaluated my performance in a way that was less than positive. So that gave a stigma to me. And then when I became a manager, I think that informed the way that I started off with performance management, and I had to unlearn some of those behaviors. So I think the stigma isn't just out there for no reason. There's some real things that have happened to people. But let's hear from you. What do you think contributes to that? And then how can we help to change that narrative and culture here at Oakton?
If I could start, something that I always like to think about, and especially because we have had so much time and opportunity to think about performance management as we've been part of this task force, is to think about the why. Like, why do we need performance management?
Excellent.
What is it about a performance review, right? Are we just trying to have an evaluation, almost like a grade in school? Or is our intention to drive performance, to drive excellence, right? To make change, to go back to being change agents. And to me, in my mind, that's what it's about, is to have a positive impact on the individuals, on the teams, on the college as a whole. And so that's how I like to start when I think about performance evaluations. And to kind of get us thinking about the stigma piece, I think there is a stigma because oftentimes in my experience at working at different organizations, for-profit, nonprofit, other institutions of higher education, oftentimes it's all about the rating, right? And what is the importance of the rating, right? And in the past, it's been tied to salary increases. And so that's why you strive to have a high rating. It's not really about driving performance. It's about how you can present yourself in the best light to get the highest rating so you can get the highest increase. And I don't think that's what we want.
Yeah.
We really want to focus on the excellence piece.
Well stated.
I think another piece of the puzzle too is, you look collectively at the instrument that we've been using, right? Say it's 20, 30 years old. We've been just recycling a Word document. And our staff see that as a lack of investment in their growth, right? We've had the same static tool for this time, and it's the same thing every year over and over again. Now, I hope one of the byproducts when staff actually get in and see the performance evaluation piece, the one-on-one, the updates, all the other features we're going to start rolling out, goals, feedback, so on and so forth, is that they literally see the investment in their benefit, right? We are sparing no expense, to say the least, on this tool every year. And I hope that investment gets trickled down to the individual staff and they say, yes, my continuous improvement is encouraged. And one of the reasons that I know that the college is committed to this improvement is the fact that we're putting the resources, both monetarily and from a supervisor level, from a staff level, to make sure that we're actually using this to the best of our ability to, again, make sure that staff are moving in a positive direction in terms of their professional growth.
Excellent. Excellent. Let's stay there for a second. Other thoughts or comments about how we can change the narrative at Oakton?
Well, just thinking about our current process, right? We use a measurement system, as Roxana was speaking about, and it really doesn't accurately reflect the contributions that the employee has made.
Yeah.
So I think that's, it's generic. It's just, okay, quantity, quality, but what did you do to change something in the department? How are you as a team player?
Great point.
So the development is not there, and I think we missed that. And hopefully, moving into the new software, we could build and reflect on more of developing employees and staff versus just, measuring what they did throughout the year.
Oh, yeah. You said a word right there. So not just performance evaluation, but performance development. Development throughout the year. So that to Tom's point, when we get to the evaluation standpoint, we've already, worked on the development versus the other way around. Makes sense.
Precisely. I'd echo that in that the current state is we're always looking backward at what people have done in the past. But we're really going to change that, I hope, look forward and what people will do in the future. What can they be excited about in their position? How can we support them? Asking different questions, hopefully, as we move forward with this tool that will be more tailored to individual jobs and bring real relevancy to what we're saying in that performance review instead of just a rote look back on the year before, because you can't do anything about what happened the year before.
Yeah. Excellent.
So now I hope that the forward-thinking performance review tool, in conjunction with the updates and the one-to-ones, will finally bring us to that time where we are continually looking at how people can engage, how people can contribute, how people can fulfill their goals. So that's gets me very excited about Lattice.
Yeah, which is a great segue into this last part of the conversation. Let's talk about rollout. What's next? What can people expect? What are some of the things that we need to be thinking about to be prepared for? I mentioned in the question, managers or people that are being trained to do the evaluation, but just in general, what can people expect next? What are some of the rollout strategies?
Well, we have a large training effort getting underway. We've started with administrators and their performance review instrument, which is a little bit different than what staff uses. So kind of testing on them, and it's going pretty well.
Administrators are always the guinea pigs.
Yeah.
and not for nothing. I think there's a lot of reasons to use that employee faction to kick things off, but I thought it was a great idea to start with us.
Yeah, well, it's a smaller group, so a little more manageable, and we're encouraging everyone as we go through this to be patient with themselves, be patient with each other, as we've heard multiple times in the college, grace and flexibility, as we all learn something new. So that's very important to hold in mind. We'll be offering a lot of training when it comes to the staff performance evaluation cycle, which will begin in June. And we'll be holding separate sessions for individual contributors versus managers so that everyone can focus on what they need to do. But one component of Lattice is an optional self-review for absolutely everyone. That's where you start as a manager or as an individual contributor. And then it moves into the manager review as a simultaneous or next stage, depending on how you want to plan your review. It's fairly flexible. This year, we're sticking with the template that we have used in the past, just so people have that continuity because they've been working all year with that certain form in mind. But as we move forward, we'll have more flexibility.
The other thing, if I can just jump in really quickly, Mindy came up with this brilliant idea, which I think worked very well with administrators, to hold the training sessions in a computer lab, which is, it just works perfectly with Lattice because hands-on, everyone will be able to log into their Lattice account and kind of follow along and try things out as we kind of guide you through how Lattice works.
Lattice also has a very rich help library.
Yes, it does.
So
yes, it does.
It's not only helpful in the sense of the mechanics of the system, but it also gives some great tips on how to hold conversations.
Yeah, awesome. And that's what I feel like is the real basis of this, right? Is how do we have conversations that are ultimately useful to drive performance, to drive excellence, to drive equity? How do we, have no pun intended, but how do we have critical conversations around this, right? The evaluation process is a critical conversation, which is, obviously there's a connection there. But I would ask for you all to close us out with any words of advice or words of wisdom for those that are getting ready to embark on this process. Mindy, you mentioned before that there was strategic and intentional ways to roll it out so that we don't create a culture shock. But I would imagine that a year from now, we'll be fully invested, which means that a year from now, we're going to have to do a part 2 of this episode to get everybody back around the table to talk about how we're actually doing. Yes, but as we get ready to embark on this monumental change, one that I believe will ultimately lead to more inclusive, more equitable evaluations and results, what words of advice or wisdom or thoughts do you have to offer for those that are getting ready to get started?
I would say just get excited for what's to come. Yeah. It's new. Who doesn't like new? It's engaging. And once we get past this initial evaluation period, I think we will be able to just delve more into the tools. And I think everyone would be excited about it. Staff, managers. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like that because it's bigger than just an evaluation tool. As Mindy mentioned, there's so many other pieces there. And I think that in this year, hopefully people will get to pass the evaluation point and get to know, some of the other features. Let's hear from others.
I would say be open-minded, right? Wherever you are in this spectrum. Are you a people leader? Are you a subject content expert? Wherever your role is within the organization, be open-minded and remember that this journey is for you and your continuous improvement.
Yeah.
Also, the tool itself is going to be a continuous improvement project as we look to take in feedback from all the different users and sort of mend and twist and turn those dials a little bit in one direction or another. So please be open with your feedback, right? We're rehashing the tool that we've always done, but in a digital format. Next year is going to look a little bit different. We need your feedback. We want to hear from you about what those competencies should look like. Is there a rating system? Is there no rating system? So on and so forth. So actively engage in the tool and take ownership of this process, because I think this is a very unique opportunity as an institution to make sure that the folks that are a part of it are actively participating in this process, as opposed to a more of a top-down scenario where this is how you're going to be reviewed,
right?
When, where, why, all of that stuff. You have control, and we want to hear from that. So send all your emails to Mindy, please.
Sure. I'm happy for that. And I echo what you say, Tom. I am very eager for feedback. And there are a lot of tweaks we can make to the system. It is customizable. So don't be afraid to ask that question because, we're all learning this at the same time and we may be able to take care of something. So don't just let it nag you in the back of your mind. Write it down and shoot it to me or to hr@oakton.edu.
Awesome.
Or Tom.
Awesome.
I agree with everything everyone has said. To kind of echo Tamara, change is part of progress. So we need to embrace it, get excited about the possibilities, get excited about the future, work with everyone, together, right, to see how we can truly make this process effective and efficient and beneficial to everyone. And I would say just approach it with a growth mindset, to use Carol Dweck's phrase. I think that's an important approach.
Excellent. And I would say, remember the humanity within the process. Remember that you're a human being, but you're also evaluating another human being as well. And it doesn't mean that you don't have to get at the heart of the tough issues or things that may need to change. But this performance management idea is about growth and development, but the platform that we're using is about efficiency, effectiveness, and allowing us to do it in a way that helps to build and cultivate a culture of inclusion and belonging. And so that has to start with us. We can't, there's no product that we can buy that will help us in that effort, right? We have to start with ourselves to see the humanity behind it and to see that this is a way for everyone to be able to grow and develop so that we can be our best and our authentic selves to give our best back to our students. I've said this time and again, it's hard to come to work and give your best to students in an environment where you don't feel supported or you don't have a great relationship with someone who's evaluating you. And so I think that those things are not abnormal. They're common. They happen. But in this process, this is where a lot of relationships can get broken. This is where a lot of progress can slow down. This is where good relationships can turn to bad relationships. And then sometimes even bad relationships may turn into good or may be able to grow. And so see the humanity within the process. And I think that will help to be able to have a more meaningful, effective process on both sides of the desk.
I could not agree more.
Love
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you for being on the show today. I know that we've all worked together on this. I was a part of the team. And so we're kind of not really guests, in this conversation. We've had it many times before. But thank you for being on the Critical Conversations podcast. I really appreciate your contributions to this season. And I look forward to the Lattice project. And I hope that the listeners will too. So thank you for joining us today, everybody. Have a good one.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you.
The Critical Conversations podcast is recorded at Oakton College, located at 1600 East Gulf Road, Des Plaines, Illinois. The show is sponsored in part by the Oakton College Educational Foundation, produced by Erick, Rohn, coordinated by Brenda, Cruz, and hosted by Dr. Rick Daniels. For more information or to connect with us, email critconpod@gmail.com. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time for more Critical Conversations.